Assisted suicide is one of the most highly debated topics in modern America. This was first brought into the scene when Dr. Jack Kevorkian searched for a safe way to end his injured comrade's suffering in the battlefield. As a pioneer in the world of PAS, he practiced what he promoted. Ironically, he was later arrested for homicide due to his practice. When faced with terminal liver cancer, which happened at the time after the Death with Dignity Act was passed in his home state of Oregon, he opted out of utilizing the practice he dearly loved and pushed into the public eye. Although a majority of doctors do not support assisted suicide, there are still many professionals out in the world that advocate the practice. I will neither give a deadly drug to anybody if asked for, nor will I make a suggestion to the effect. This excerpt from the Hippocratic Oath, a doctrine which doctors must sign and stand by in order to attain their degree in practice medicine, acts as one of the core values of their lives. Legalizing assisted suicide would negate that statement, as well as many others from the document that are the basis for modern medical practice and the heart of American medicine. Yet, somehow, doctors like Dr. Kevorkian, also known as Dr. Death, support and take strides towards the legalization of assisted suicide. Why is that? The answer is highly opinionated. Those that support assisted suicide believe that the escape from the suffering would be better for life. But who is to say what is better for life? Who is to deem a life good or not? Who is to say that a life is not worth living? No human has the authority to decide the quality of life. Every life is worth living. Every life will have struggles. Every life will have hardships. But in the end, every life is purposeful and every life is priceless. And the legalization of assisted suicide would devalue life itself. But not only are we undermining the core of medicine and the value of life, which just so happens to be priceless, by legalizing assisted suicide, the legalization of assisted suicide enables those labeled terminal to escape their life. But in order for doctors to give the terminally ill this loaded gun, they must give a 6-month or less prognosis. But according to a 2008 case study by the famed Mayo Clinic, 80% of prognoses given by some of the top doctors in America were incorrect and misled the ill to believe they had less time on this earth, less time with their loved ones, and less time to live their life to the fullest extent. By doctors assuming divinity by giving life sentences of 6 months or less to their patients, they are cutting the lives of those taking advantage of assisted suicide short. It is nearly impossible, even in today's technologically advanced world, to predict death. Now let's say a random patient is given a 3-month prognosis by his almighty doctor, and his almighty doctor happens to be correct. If he were to put in a request for the medicine to take his life, he'd have to go through a 2-month evaluation period in order to even have a chance of receiving his escape. After the 2-month evaluation period, he would have to wait anywhere from 15 days to 3 years to have this gun put in his hands. In total, the wait time after the first of 3 requests to use the escape that is assisted suicide can be as long as 3 years and 15 days, which just so happens to be far beyond the 3-month sentence he was given. After the long wait, the time comes to do the act. The medicines used in assisted suicide have a very unique 30-minute death time. 5 minutes of horrible, miserable, agonizingly painful, and flat-out torturous consciousness, and 25 minutes of uncontrollable unconsciousness. During the 5 minutes of agony, the patient suffers from the horrendous side effects such as convulsions, asphyxiation, and uncontrollable vomit, all of which can cause one to choke on their own vomit. This suffering, which is in no way dignifying, which happens to be the sole purpose of the Death with Dignity Act, defeats the sole purpose of assisted suicide. After the 5 agonizing minutes, there comes a 25-minute period of unconsciousness. During this time, the patient is slowly dying. But 20% of those seeking escape from their suffering come out of the unconsciousness and live their life with more suffering than they had before they attempted to kill themselves. How is it that suffering and pain during a passive death dignifying? Who has the right to consider a life worth living when in America we all believe all lives are worth living? How is it that suicide alone is a felony, but all of a sudden when a professional who has no right to assume dignity and give a short life sentence to their patients gets involved? Here in America, we are a nation under God, not under man. So we as humans, we as Americans, even those who have achieved mastery in the medical field, cannot assume divinity and predict our fellow humans' death by giving them a life sentence. 80% of the time, medical professionals, even the top, are wrong in their prognosis, which leads to the lives being wasted. Precious, precious lives. We cannot, and we should not, stand passively by as the lives of the terminal are being thrown in the trash. It is necessary to remember that there is no light without darkness, no rose without a thorn, and no life without struggle. Life cannot be valued and will never be. Life is precious. Life is priceless. Every life is worth living. And to allow assisted suicide, to allow an escape from life, to allow an escape from suffering, even when there is a cure, is to undermine the core principles of modern medicine. It's to devalue life and makes living and fighting meaningless. Thank you.